Did you get? Was it a booby trap then?
No, we have bunk beds in my boys' room, and my son has like a floating shelf that just hooks onto the side of the bunk bed. And I was bending over to pick something up, and I wasn't paying attention to where I was, and I whacked it hard and just.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Ouch.
And then I swore, and then I kicked the bed, and then I got a dirty look from my wife for swearing.
I think you need to come up with a better story. Like there was a home invasion, and
that's right. I fought 6 of them off with a kitchen chair. Anyway, so I whacked my head on.
And the dark one gave you a scar.
That's right.
He doesn't know about that joke right now.
I think he's talking about Voldemort.
Yes.
That's right. Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know about that joke.
Oh, that's the Harry Potter reference.
I've never seen any of them.
Okay.
Manny doesn't read books.
Nice.
He's not very well read, so he just said.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh man.
I'll see. It's almost your marathon is 1 week before mine, so that means your marathon's next weekend.
Yeah, a week from tomorrow.
Nice. You ready? You feel ready?
It doesn't matter anymore.
It's happening.
It's too late if I'm not.
Is this your first marathon?
It is my first marathon. John's run like 50 of them, so
not quite 50, but
yeah. No, it's my first one. I'm shooting for about a 15-minute mile, so I'll be out there for a good chunk of the day.
Okay, yeah.
Wow.
I was trying to figure out what.
All the best.
But I've run, it puts me around like 6.5 hours.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right for.
But I've done a 16 miler at that pace, and I felt like I could keep going. I was pretty tired, but I could keep going at that point. So I figure I can muscle through it. I think it really is just a mental game. Though I understand it, a lot of the marathons, they have people who are helping by driving around and saying, "Do you need a ride to the finish line?"
Really?
Yeah, that doesn't seem very helpful.
I have a few friends that have run this marathon, and they have people that drive the course.
Oh my god!
Pick people up who are giving up, and I'm just like, don't give people the option.
Yeah,
like if they're laying on the side of the road, go pick them up.
Yeah, after like half an hour. Yeah,
if they're laying on the side of the road, then show up and go, "Are you okay? Do we need to take you in?" But yeah.
Are we already started? What's the deal here?
Yeah, no, we're live.
We're live.
Yes. All your racial jokes are broadcast to the world. So.
All right.
They know of your true nature now. So, but no, it's I think if you can do that, you could probably even do it faster. I bet you could, because whatever you can run in training, you're gonna run a lot faster in the actual event.
Yeah,
so
I've decided though that I don't want to push it out of the gate.
Yeah.
Like
just complete it. Yeah.
Yeah. When I ran the 5K, I just ran the whole way. I ran in 10, 11 minute mile.
Yeah.
But the marathon's a little bit, I need to conserve that energy, otherwise I'm not going to make it. So
yeah, because it's a long time. Your coach should have a running plan for you. She'll give you the exact pace for every mile to run, or she should.
Yeah.
And then you just follow the plan, and that's that's it. So I've got my last long run, my 20 mile run tomorrow, and I'm going to be trying to do like 13 of those miles at marathon pace. So
we'll
see. But
I'm just tapering at this point. So I think I'm going like 6 miles tomorrow, and she's telling me to rest a bunch this next week.
Yep.
So
Well, cool. It'll be awesome accomplishment as long as you don't get in the pickup truck.
Yeah. And I've been using those gels on the long runs, and that makes a huge difference.
It does. It makes a huge difference. Yeah.
So, yeah, and then I had miscalculated on 75 hard. I thought it finished the day before the marathon. It finishes the Friday after the marathon.
Oh, well, that's going to be a real interesting week for you.
Yeah, still have to work out 45 minutes twice a day after the
just joined-
marathon.
I
So
joined
I won't be able to walk
F45.
on Monday, but I'm going to go work out anyway.
To do some cross training, I guess.
Yeah, probably.
So I joined F45. So now I'll be working out every single day of the week, except that some days it'll be 2 hours a day with John. The other days it'll just be 45 minutes.
Oh, you did the 75 hard? You said?
No, F45.
Oh, F45. Oh, okay.
Never heard of it.
I mean, I usually do running on the off days that we're not lifting. So Monday, Wednesday, Fridays are lifting day, and I run. But now I'm lifting almost every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to start lifting after the marathon. I did it for like 2 days before the marathon. And then I couldn't run. I'm like, no, I want to finish the marathon.
Oh, shoot. On Wednesday, Manny, after we lifted at the gym. So on Wednesday morning, I ran 12 miles, right? And then Manny and I went to the gym. And then I was at home resting up. And around like 6:50, I got a message from this guy that I was supposed to run with on Thursday night, right? And he's like, I'm here. And I'd messaged him earlier because he's like flying in from New York, and he wanted
Just to run with you?
Well, he's out here for a conference, and he, I said, oh yeah, I'll run with you. He's like a big time runner. So yeah, so I was like, oh shit. I was like, we're supposed to run Thursday, right? And he's like, no, I thought you might have got confused. It's tonight. So he was staying downtown. He Ubered down here, right? So because I told him to come to Pacific Beach. So I was like, oh shit, all right, I'll be there. So I got down there and I ran 10 miles with him.
Oh my God.
And he runs the mile. That's his event, right? So we start running. I'm like, oh, what's your pace, like your easy pace? And he's like, oh, about 7.5.
Oh,
I was like, oh. I was like, my easy pace is like 9-minute mile. Like, okay. So we ran like mostly 9s. And then towards the end, he's like, oh, should we pick up the pace? Start doing my pace? So I was like, all right, fine. So ran the last 2 miles, like 8-minute mile and then 7-minute mile. So I was dead. I ran like 22 miles that day and then lifted for 2 hours. So it's like 6 hours workout. Yeah. But
I'm curious, John. I mean, you talk about all of this stuff, and then you're still doing all of the simple programmer stuff and the Bulldog Mindset stuff. So
whoa, hang on a minute. What do you mean he's still doing simple programmer stuff? Like what's he doing?
I'm doing.
What are you talking about, Chuck? What simple programmer?
Josh dumped that back squarely in his lap.
Yeah.
But what exactly was that? What exactly is John doing? I would like to know.
With simple programmer?
Mm-hmm.
You're asking John what he's doing with simple programmer.
Yep.
That's a good question. John, what are you doing with simple programmer?
I'm doing a lot of stuff. I'm answering emails that get starred for me. And I'm coordinating with Fritz to do promotions with Manny. And what else am I doing with simple programmer? I'm making videos. What's up, Kazi? Once a week
Hey,
or
Kazi.
so. And what else am I doing? I'm
He's struggling
I'm
to
publishing
to figure out what he's doing. That's all that is.
No, there's a bunch of stuff. Yeah, no, I've got a lot of stuff that is on the horizon to do with simple programmer. I mean, there's the company could basically go without me, but it won't grow without me. That's, you know what I'm saying? Like, so all of the work really is growth work. So
Yeah. Even Go is a like we've had this conversation numerous times. Like, could the company sustain itself, or would it start the long march down?
No, I mean, it can sustain itself for a long time, simply because it's not just sustaining itself, right? I've got employees that are working on the company, right? So I've got a content team that's producing content. I've got an editor that's, producing I've got even people that are creating videos, right? Even if I weren't creating videos,
Mm-hmm.
And we've got, and now that I've got someone running the affiliate promotions, right? That all that stuff can just go on. And there's continual people new joining the list. So there's not, it can really run without me, but
Yeah.
that's how it's supposed to be anyway, right? That's really like the things that I should be doing as a business owner to add value to the business is setting the long-term vision, hiring people, right? Getting more leverage out of the company.
Out of the people, not out of yourself.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you were to start Simple Programmer all over again, how would you do it?
How would I do it if I was starting it all over with the same?
Mm-hmm.
So I would make the focus more narrow from the beginning, right? So I would make it a very clear outcome of what Simple Programmer does for a person, right? Or what exactly is it? I definitely keep the scope more narrow, and then I would never put my face on anything.
That's probably the biggest thing.
I would, yeah.
Going away from the personality branding.
I would, instead of just like churning out content, whether I produce it or someone else, I would strategically plan the type of content to be produced, and then pay people to produce that content, produce high level, high quality content, right? Instead of volume. Like you can win on volume. Being prolific is a great strategy, but it's becoming less of a profitable strategy and a more difficult strategy today because of the noise, right? So I would rather have, instead of 2,000 blog posts, I'd rather have 50 pillar blog posts that are like 6,000 word blog posts on very, very detailed, very comprehensive topics that are the pillar to, that you can promote and whatnot. So that's pretty much what I do. I'd also pick one product to sell and have all of the, and instead of, so like trying to get people opting in, like to your email address or to your email, it's like, instead of focusing on getting as many people as possible, I'd focus more on getting the right people, because it makes a difference, right? Because you can have a list of 100,000 people, and if those aren't the right people, yeah, you're going to make some sales on your offers and whatnot. But if you have a list of 10,000 people that opted in specifically for the thing that you are giving them, that's better, because those people are active, they're engaged, they're going to buy a higher ticket price, right? Yeah. That's, so I would focus more on finding the right people then. So those are probably the main things.
So did you say that you would focus on a single product?
Yes. Yep.
And to add to it, if you're not the face, if you're not the brand, if you are nobody, people may not know you, who you are in that case, right? You're behind the scenes in the business. Then would you be able to sell a very high ticket product without that personality or without that name behind it?
Absolutely. You know how you do that? The same way Coke and Nike do it, right? You go and you find the person who's invested in building their personal brand, and you utilize them to promote the product.
Right? So this is going back to the Kevin Harrington conversation we had.
Yeah, exactly. You find the talent, someone who already has it, right? So for example, I mean, knowing what I know now, right? Can I pay what top developer, right? Let's say that I have some kind of development product. What top developer can I not pay $5,000, right, to jump on a call with me for an hour and promote the product, or you know what I mean? You can certainly pay to have someone, and you may not even need to, honestly. Like if you can get someone that believes in the product, or you do some kind of, there's always a way to get,
I think
yeah, like how even Free Code Camp grew their page, like crazy, 1.3 million or something subs on YouTube, and what they just do is they just go out to creators. They even went out to me and just got all my videos and put in one video.
Yep.
Like 10 of my videos put in one video, and then just they're growing their channel just using everybody else's work. None of it is their own. And I mean, that's massive, massive following that'll lead to a lot of potential buyers for them too.
Exactly. Yeah. They utilize other people. The experts.
Do you
right?
know their revenue numbers by any chance?
It's like nothing. There, I actually talked to what's his name a couple of times about this, and he's it's not for profit.
Mm.
Yeah.
So they're just selling, like they're just doing YouTube revenue. That's all.
Yeah.
No, they're not even doing YouTube ads revenue. They don't even have ads on.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they don't even have ads. They just have
Oh,
what are they?
Nothing.
So if they're not selling anything, right, it doesn't count because you can always build a large audience which will watch your content, but that's not the point.
You can use the same principles to sell stuff. Like you don't like there's another one. They're called not Udonics, but I keep saying Udonics. But there's another one that's doing a similar strategy, but they sell stuff. They're using the same strategy as Free Code Camp, and they sell stuff. So the point is, like, if you can accumulate attention, you can turn it mostly into dollars. I understand the high quality concept, but if you have people who are interested in programming, there's going to be a bunch of those people who are going to likely buy your product, if you have a lot of their eyeballs on you.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was actually on Instagram and I saw John's video where he was saying that you said essentially you were cutting back on the number of videos to produce more high quality videos. I was actually just curious how that worked, how that's going to work out for you, because in some ways, I see the higher quality stuff engages more of the right people, and you can get maybe a little bit more traffic per video. But some people are really prolific by putting out a ton of stuff. And, and then enough of it hits enough people to, capitalize on.
So we're seeing a huge reversal in that, right? This was a strategy that I had been preaching for a long time, is being prolific as hell, right?
Well, and it worked for you for a long time on...
It did. It worked on multiple platforms, right? It worked on Pluralsight. It worked on YouTube. It worked on the blog. But it stopped working. Why? Because of the rise of the influencer, right? Everyone and their mom wants to be an influencer now, right? If you have an ass and you're a girl, you're an influencer. You just haven't. That's the only requirements, right? Before, the bar was higher, right? You had to know how to write, or you had to be a photographer, or you had to have video abilities to speak on, or have something to say, or be entertaining at least, right? Now you just have to have an ass. So it's very hard to compete. Like, everyone's becoming influencers, and everyone is, telling you how to sell Bitcoin or trade Bitcoin and all these things, right? So there's a ton of content out there. Not only that, but who are these people copying? They're copying Gary Vaynerchuk, who's producing 5 pieces of content a day on each channel, right? Even guys like Grant Cardone are producing massive amounts of content. But go over to Gary's YouTube channel and see the views on his videos.
Not good. It's not that good.
It's not good. And now look at Grant Cardone's, who's still producing 2 videos a day, and look at his. It's not good. And even just from my own experience in following, I like Grant. He's got a lot of good stuff. But you know what? I don't even watch any of his stuff anymore. I just skip all of his videos. Why? Because I'm not going to watch 2 videos a day and try to it's just too much. He's not focusing at all on quality. He's just producing spam content. And what's happened now is that everyone is inundated with all of this, right? Everyone sees all these people on Instagram, all trying to promote, all trying to. So the thing that I realized is that what I want is, again, it's just like I was saying about, if I were starting Simple Programmer again, is I want people that are watching every video that I produce, because it's quality, because it's focused, because they're true loyal fan, because they're waiting for that content to come out, not just spam producing it, right? That casting that wide net, it worked great, and it can work if you're just starting out, but you know, when you look at it too, when I look at my YouTube, for example, and I look at where the views come from, right? I get about 700,000 views per month.
Mhm.
All right. If a new video comes out, right? If I'm doing, like, let's say that I was doing 2 videos a day, on average, each one of those videos would probably pick up around 1,500 views. If I did that, maybe 1,000 views, right? So that would be, what is that? 14,000. Let's say that'd be worth 20,000 views a week, right? So producing 2 videos a day, let's say that I could produce 80,000 extra views per month. Okay. Well, 600,000 of the views are coming from other stuff, right? And if we did an 80-20 rule, it'd be like 4 or 5 videos that are getting SEO content or being recommended that's producing most of the views. So rather than taking that strategy, right, and having none of those videos ever go viral, because when you're producing at that speed, you're never going to get enough engagement. But instead, if I did 3 videos a week, right, and each one of those videos on average gets about 4,000 views, that's 12,000 as opposed to 20. So I'm only losing 8,000 views per week. But the chance of one of those 3 videos getting 10,000 views or 20,000 views
Mhm.
is much higher, because those are better videos, because they're higher produced, and because people are clicking them. Remember, YouTube is the algorithm is mostly geared towards click-through rate now.
Right.
So if people who are subscribed to you see your videos and they don't click them, that's where they die. They don't go out to they don't go out to new people. But if you have subscribers and those subscribers click the videos as soon as they see them, then it sends a signal to the YouTube algorithm to say, spread this out and see if other people will click this video.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's, you know, again, like I said, I was very much in the being prolific game, but you have to shift the strategy because it doesn't make sense. It makes more sense to have fewer videos.
Right.
It doesn't affect my bottom line because I'm still making 700,000 views per month, because it's mostly coming from the back catalog. I've got enough back catalog, and I've got a few, you know,
Right.
hits, and trying to really hit one of those hits, because one hit video will produce more views than 20 shitty videos, right? Over the lifetime.
Then 100, even thousands.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it makes more sense to aim for that nowadays, even though that's the exact opposite, right? Before, when you didn't have all of this, you didn't have everyone trying to be Gary Vaynerchuk. Yeah, it made sense to be prolific because no one could do it. No one could keep up with you. But now the barrier to entry is so low. There's companies that will produce content for you that will, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
it's just the way that you have to differentiate yourself is you have to be quality stuff that every time someone looks at your stuff, they're like, damn, that's good, right?
Yeah, and the algorithm has also changed a lot, like because it's not just about views anymore. It's so much about watch time and the click-through rates that it's kind of absurd how much that's true. Like this entire year, I've been insanely prolific with my entire team, and we produced multiple pieces of content every week that were really, really good. But what we saw was we kept having a decline over the entire year. That was kind of like a really fucking painful thing to experience. And now what I went back to is like almost 1 video a week, if that, and then just making sure that they're really, really incredible. Because if you have a high watch time on one video, it doesn't even matter about views anymore. As long as you have really high watch time, that video will just keep also going to more and more people. So just to put it in perspective, right? I've been teaching Python stuff for like forever. I have 200, 300 videos talking about Python. This one guy made a video, Programming with Mosh. I don't know if any of you guys know Programming with Mosh channel on YouTube.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He made
he has a Python
a
tutorial.
video on Python, okay? One
Yeah.
fucking video. It has 4 million views in 6 months.
Yeah.
That's more views than about 200 of my pretty awesome videos. Like some videos have, some of my videos had 200,000 views, 500,000 views. And then I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, so I don't know in what sense that's fair, but I'm like, okay, I've just learned that that's the strategy now. And he put up an 8-hour-long tutorial. So we're now doing a lot of that, and our watch time on the channel is absurd, and the views are also like probably 20 to 40 times more than average that we would get this entire year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but you
and-
guys are already, you have established content brands, right?
Yeah.
So for the new person that's out there, you know, trying to get into the game, should they be focused on being more prolific? I mean, you know, I'm starting to get into the YouTube space, and I don't have a ton of content on there. Most of the content I have on there is I took the podcast episode, I took the album artwork, and voila, video. So yeah, if I get in and I'm actually talking to the camera and, you know, spending a bit of time producing it, but not a ton of time, and I have a ton to say, so I think a lot of the videos would be quality.
So, okay.
You have to keep.
Yeah, I have a few things to say on this too, but John, if you want to jump on it, go for it.
So here's what I'd say. This is what I've been giving all my coaching clients that are starting out on YouTube, and I think this is a solid strategy. You will not get videos from you will not get views from suggested, okay? Because no one knows who you are,
Right.
and YouTube is not going to suggest you. You will get videos from SEO, or views from SEO. So what I would do if I were you is I would be prolific, but I would create as much content as you can, as many videos as you can, as rapidly as you can, on questions that people search for specifically in your niche, very, very specific on YouTube, right? So whatever question that you can answer that someone would search for, you can produce as many of those as you want. Why? Because you don't have a following, you don't have an audience that's subscribed. You're not going to inundate them with content, right?
Right.
But when you're starting out, when you don't have a lot of subscribers, getting that SEO on those specific question videos, there's no competition for those, right? Because you can't win the competition game. You can't get in suggested, right? Because when you look at YouTube, right, on the right-hand side of the videos, there's what, 12 videos or 20 videos that get suggested.
Right.
You're never going to show up in that when you have 100 subscribers or 1,000 subscribers, right? It's impossible. So don't try and compete there.
Yeah. I have
right?
just over 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah. So don't try and compete there. But if you can answer a very specific question, right? Like, you know, how do I install Unity, right, on a Mac or something like that?
Right.
Whatever it is, very, very specific question, right? That specific of a question, there's not going to be a lot of competition. And if you produce a good video on that, you're going to rank for that, and
Right.
you're going to likely get some traffic, which will get you some subscribers. So you get to the threshold point where you actually can get recommended, and then you can make more broader type of topics or more clickbaity type of things.
Right.
But right now, that should be your only focus. And with that said, also being prolific is a great strategy starting out, because being prolific allows you to develop skill, right? You can't just be like NPR, like you can't just say, okay, I'm going to only produce super quality content and I'm only going to make one
Right.
video a week when you're just starting out, because you don't have the skill level to do that, right? It'd be better to make a lot of videos just starting out so that you can develop your skill level. And then once you have that skill, then you can refine it and you can start reducing the content. But starting out, prolific and SEO.
Well, the other thing is with the being prolific is I can experiment with a lot of things. You know, I being whoever is listening to this, right? I mean, I have some of these ideas already, but yeah, I can experiment. Oh, people really like it when I put out content about this thing, or when I talk about these types of topics related to whatever technology they're in or whatever.
So I have a slightly different opinion about this. You can actually go very high quality. And so from my point of view, if you are publishing something once a week and consistently, that's very good. And it may depend on the domain which you are. Like in programming, if you nail the SEO game, that your quality is so good that you are being number one. So when I write some articles about my specific niche, the goal is always to be number one, not in the first page, number one on the first page. So, and that takes time. Like some of my articles took about 40 hours to write. And I don't do YouTube. I mean, we use YouTube just to publish videos for, demo videos, but our main channel is blogs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there, if you nail this, that this is the best explanation of that programming concept or that AI concept, then you will be in the top, very soon. And there is not very much SEO game you have to play either. You basically in-page SEO, make sure that the head H1, H2 tags, etc. are correct, and then go and answer questions on Stack Overflow, where you put the whole answer there, but also provide a link to your own article, and that can nail it. And once you get this reputation that this whatever this guy writes is very high quality, then people will come just to hear you when you have something to say, right?
Yep.
So that's another strategy. I don't know which one is better because I have never tried the other one, but that is definitely a strategy. Even for beginners, I think if you're able to spend 20, 30 hours for a single piece of content, then the quality will show. And you review other pieces of content on the web as well to make sure that if your goal is to be number one on that page, then you will know what to do. I mean, you will know your quality is there or not. And it takes a lot of effort, but I'm saying that is also a valid strategy, depending on your niche. Maybe, let's say if you're doing marketing, then it's very difficult to say something profound in a single video, right? But in case of programming or say AI, where I'm teaching a library or something, you can nail one particular functionality in a single post, and that could be the definitive post on the internet about that topic, right? So that's just my 2 cents.
The only problem with that, I would agree with, except for one issue, which is that starting out, it doesn't matter if you write the best thing ever on the internet. If your domain doesn't have any authority, it'll never get recommended. So you have to, that's why I say starting out, you have to start off with more content, more prolific, and going after specific SEO terms that aren't very popular. And then once you have enough of a momentum, then I would agree with you 100%. Then the strategy you're suggesting is totally valid. But if you have no domain,
it could also depend on your niche, right?
Yeah.
If it is a very crowded niche where everything that, for example, SEO itself, right? If you want to talk about SEO, there is no new information you can provide that it's very difficult to break into that niche. There is very high quality content already out there that a lot of people know, and that SEO game is very difficult to crack, right? On the other hand, if it is a special niche, like some Python thing, which is maybe a library or a collection of libraries, etc., then you can create a very solid article around that. So it depends, I would say, on the and especially with programming concepts, Stack Overflow can be where you build your reputation, right? Go and answer questions on Stack Overflow, and then people will gradually come to know you.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so I wanna ask a question, Chuck. What's the end goal here? Why do you want to build a YouTube channel? Because from what I understand, you are building a podcast network. So this is one of the challenges I have with my coaching clients. Like, they just get excited. Oh, I want to build a YouTube channel. I want to build a podcast. I want to build a blog. Like, why do you want to do it? Tell me the end goal, and then maybe we can come up with a strategy to help you with that. So tell me, why do you want to build a YouTube channel?
It's really less about like being cool or, because it sounds cool. It's more just I'm on this mission to help developers build careers and lives that get them where they want to go, that build them success, that help them become the kinds of developers that, kind of max out in the areas of life that really matter. And
so you're doing that with the podcast network?
I am doing that with the podcast network. I would like to be able to have some of these conversations though in other places, and but it's not about the notoriety. It's about, okay, where are they at, and how do I get in front of them to help them take that leap.
Yeah,
So
but have you
here's-
maxed out the
Yeah,
podcast?
I mean,
No,
you
I
got to
haven't,
go-
and I'm not spending a ton of time on the video stuff. It's just something that I'm thinking about, and so it occurred to me that while if I'm
It's
thinking
a shiny
about
object.
Yeah.
It's a shiny object. That's the challenge right now.
Yeah.
So every
no,
strategy is
I
going to be
like
a
I
good
said,
strategy.
it's not a focus at all. But
That's actually the thing that most makes me tell you to most makes me want to discourage you from it, is because you said it's not a focus and it's not much time. If you're going to put a lot of time into it, do it. But if you're not, don't even do it at all, because it's like this. I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but I can't think of a good one. But okay, the straight just answer to this is that if you do something that you don't put a lot of time into, you still pay the cost.
Yeah.
Like there's a maintenance cost. There's like an overhead of just doing anything, right? Let's say I was going to go take kickboxing classes, right? I got to buy gloves. I got to get like shorts. I got to like get hand wraps, right? I got to get all this stuff. I got to go find a studio, right? And I'm like, well, I'm just going to take classes once a month. I still got to buy all the shit, right? I still got to like do all, it's the same thing. It's like, if you're going to do YouTube, there's going to be like, you still have to, now I have to mess with video. Now I have to mess with all, algorithm thing, like all this stuff. And you're just producing a little bit of stuff. It's better to just take that completely off your plate and just focus on the podcast rather than, or go all in on it, but don't, where you're at is the worst place to be. And I'm only saying this because I have a bunch of fucking of these bricks that are hanging on my back from all this, right? And I can't get rid of them. I can't shake them now. I'm like, oh shit, like get off me, like, but I can't because you know what I mean? So I'm watching you getting ready to put a sack of bricks on your back, and I'm like, no, don't do it. Trust me. Like I have too many of them already. It was not worth it. I shouldn't have done it. I should just focus on the one thing. So
I have
I hear you.
I have this story back from when I was 16 years old. So in India, we had 2 career options. If you were good at studies, you could either become an engineer or you could become a doctor. Those were the 2 options. And if you wanted to become a doctor, you had to take biology in high school. And biology were these 2 very large books. And most people took that just to have an option of becoming a doctor, right? Even though they were focused on engineering, they wanted to have the option open, right? Yeah. I had to, and I did not want to do that. I initially took it and I wanted to change it. And I had a 2-hour-long conversation with the clerk who would not let me make this decision. So he had to just, it was my decision. The clerk had to just accept my application for change. And he would not do it because he thought that I was ruining my life by leaving out this option. So he made me bring my father to confirm that this is what I wanted to do. So the difference, and I kept thinking that isn't it obvious that if I focus all my energy into engineering, I have a better chance into getting into engineering. In both cases, you had to compete with like 500,000 people to get into, for 1,000, 2,000 seats or whatever it was. So it was competitive. And I kept thinking, why don't they get it, right? That I cannot focus on both of them. And then I figured out what the problem was. So when you are a person, when you think that your effort matters, right? It is because of your effort that you're going to make a dent. Then you say that I cannot focus on both. But if you think that this is a random event, then you want to have that option that, oh, it's a random event. I could either get engineering or medicine. It's completely random, right? Then you want to have an option, right? So you always want to have an option when the events are random, but when it depends on your time and effort, you want to focus. That's what that was, I was 16 at that time. And that was the first time I got in this tight thing with my dad. And I told him that, look, if I make a decision right now to take biology and I don't perform well in engineering, it would be your fault. He said, let him just make a change. So my dad doesn't want to take any such responsibility for, and that
Right.
was good. It worked out.
It's the whole opportunity mindset that everyone gets pulled into all the time, where whatever you're doing, the returns are still, there. But somehow the belief is that there is something out there that's going to get returns much faster. And the lottery mindset, the opportunity mindset, rather than just the grind mindset, which is just freaking do what you said you were going to do because it's already working, and forget about all the other shiny stuff. Like, I get it, Chuck. The mission is clear to me, but the mission has to now be broken down into a vision for the next 5 years or 10 years,
Yeah.
or maybe in the next 1 year, and then the strategy you're going to pursue to get to that vision. The mission is like 50, 100 years out there. It will never be done. The mission is endless. The purpose is endless, right? That's why we call it a mission in some ways. But the vision, even if it's 5 or 1 year out, there is something. But strategy, you cannot have multiple strategies. Like, that's just one of the cardinal sins of strategy, is to have multiple strategies to make this shit happen. You
And
got
also-
one thing working. I think half the podcast episodes, we just get you to come back to the realization that do what you said you're going to do,
Yeah.
rather than start this new thing.
No, mostly it's just, for me at least, looking ahead and going, okay, what should I be looking at as a possibility for next? But I haven't actually put anything into the YouTube production stuff. I mean, it's stuff that I already had that I've kind of set up, and yeah, I've spent some time on that, and I'm realizing that it's going to be a lot more work to get to the point where I can actually pull the trigger on it.
The only thing I can think of right now, as you're saying, if you're just trying to grow your podcast network, you just put the recordings, the Zoom recordings of those things, as the whatever the name of your show is. And
Yeah.
you just literally take the recordings and put them, and you don't do anything else beyond that.
And if your answer is, I want to reach YouTube audience, then don't make your own. Instead, find people with big YouTube audiences and advertise on their YouTube channels. Do giveaways, do promotions, do straight up advertising, pay to get their access to their audience, if that's what you're after, right? Because if you stay in your medium, it's gonna be. I'm saying this very hypocritically, right? Because you're like, well, John, you do all this shit, okay? And here's the thing: I'm the poster child for why you shouldn't do this, because I do everything, right? Now here's the thing, right? And people look at it wrong, because like, oh, well, you were successful, you made millions of dollars in real estate, and doing, developer courses, you made millions of dollars, and creating online businesses and running marathons and doing all this shit and lifting weights and all of these different areas. But you know what? If I just did real estate investment, if I didn't do anything else, if I just said, you know what, maybe I, did some running or something or whatever, had one physical fitness hobby, right? Not 2 or 3. And I just focus on real estate and that's it, I'd be worth $100 million right now. If I would have just chosen to just focus on creating developer training courses, that's it, I'd be worth $100 million right now. If I would have chosen just to focus on YouTube and only YouTube, I don't know if it'd be worth $100 million, but it would be, I would have at least a couple million subscribers.
That actually goes to like what you just said, that goes to show the power of what happens when you build your own thing rather than build on something else.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm very skeptical of YouTube in the long term.
Yeah, I kind of have mixed opinions on a little bit of this. Like, for example, Charles, your question was, you're trying to grow both your podcast and YouTube?
Well, mostly it's mostly in service of the podcast and just serving that mission.
Okay. Do you care if it's podcast or YouTube? Like, if you start finding a lot of success, for example, on YouTube, do you care to be religious to the podcast, or?
I'm doing the podcast because it's effective.
Okay.
And I really love doing the podcasts.
Well, you should share the numbers so that people know what we're talking about, because he may not know where you're coming from.
Yeah, I mean, our largest show gets more than 20,000 downloads every episode. And our newest shows are, they start out and they immediately jump to couple thousand listeners.
And you have what, 10 podcasts now?
18.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
the scale.
if you're getting results in a certain area, then I think to really double down on it, because
yeah, that's what I've been doing. But again, I see YouTube as a possible outpost to get more traction.
I mean, I think that it's definitely good to, like, again, everybody has a different viewpoint on it, but what I feel from my personal experience is like you try a few things and then you double down on what's really like, for example, I was even talking to John it was in San Diego, right? I met you, and we were talking about Instagram, and I was going pretty hard on my Instagram, and I was growing pretty fast on Instagram. And I was going to kind of the right places, and I was doing influencer marketing. But then over the course of the last few months, when I looked at the revenue coming from my YouTube versus my Instagram, it was like night and day. It was insanity how much more revenue was coming from YouTube. Whereas from Instagram. So I actually just completely have vanished from Instagram, and I've just like quadrupled down on YouTube. So it's not going to be the best thing. I'm probably not going to have the strategy forever, but it's bringing in results. So I'm just sticking with it and like going, because I do feel like with these online social media platforms, the problem is that sometimes the game changes. Like if John kept doing real estate, it would just be real estate. The principles would stay very similar. If you do lifting, you just get bigger. If you just fucking eat more, you just gain weight. With YouTube, it's like if the algorithm changes tomorrow, you're like, the same shit that worked yesterday is not going to work tomorrow. It doesn't make me paranoid, but it just makes me stay on my toes to try out different options when it comes to things like social media.
But if you are 100% all in on YouTube and you're just focused on YouTube and that's the only thing that you do, like some people, then you'll be on top of everything that's working. You'll be research. You see what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, the algorithm may shift, but you'll know you'll know which direction it's going before.
Yeah. If I'm getting results from there, then I should keep going and really, really go all in.
Yeah.
Because that's a mistake I felt like I was making. Like I hadn't maximized the upside on my YouTube and I was starting to diversify, but I should really maximize, and it's working for me. So it sounds like to me, your podcast is working. It doesn't seem like you're getting like,
oh yeah.
I didn't know.
My focus is almost completely on the podcast. But
here's why I support the podcast cast so much, because YouTube is owned by one fucking company.
That's true.
And you're hedging your whole life on one company's back. While podcast, there's like, it'll never go away just because there's Spotify and there's Apple and there's Google and there is like 20 different apps and there's Androids and everything. There's always a podcast feed. But being on the back of Google to build your business in the long term, to me, is a pretty dangerous long-term strategy. In the short term, it's great. Like you get the results, you keep working it, you're grinding it out. But the podcast to me is a way more powerful medium now that you already have it working. You just got to not have to think about the other medium being there.
Yeah. Honestly.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, out of all of our businesses, Chuck, yours, if you focus on the podcast, has the highest potential to be the largest of all. It has the biggest, right? Like you're literally building a media company. We're building, to some degree, personal brands and somewhat scalable businesses, some consulting, some things like that. But you're building a media company. Like your company could be worth tens of millions of dollars, potentially. That's like for the rest of us, if we could have a $10 million company, that would be amazing. But that's about as far as we could possibly go if we hit it out of the park. Yours could be multiples of that.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I was curious. I was like, okay, what would it take and what am I looking at here? But yeah, I don't have the time to put in to be as prolific as I think I need to be to build the kind of YouTube presence that I think it would take to get what I want.
Well, that's actually the wrong answer to me. To me, the right answer is I just need to focus on podcasts, right? Because even if you had the bandwidth,
Well, if it were an easy
energy.
win, it would be a different conversation. But it's
No,
it's
even
not
if
just
it
a
was an easy
rollover and
win,
pick it up.
even if it was an easy win, I'd say you go all in on the podcast. Whatever extra time you have, because it's attention residue.
Yeah.
Whatever extra time you're spending on other shit is not getting spent on doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down, 10xing down on the podcast. So I think the answer for you is to focus on one thing rather than to think about what is that low-hanging fruit. I was reading the name of this book. Jason Fried just wrote a new book. The guys of Basecamp.
Right.
Most of you know Jason Fried, right?
Right.
So he said,
I don't know him personally. I know DHH, but
yeah, DHH and Jason Fried actually wrote the book together called "It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work." And one of the things that really stood out to me, they said, in business there is no low-hanging fruit. There is no low-hanging fruit. Everything you consider is a low-hanging fruit will ultimately bite you in your ass. Everything you consider, oh, let me just go do this shit, and suddenly you made a 2-month project out of the damn thing, and it's taken you off your course of the one thing that you were pursuing. So every time I hear someone saying, hey, this low-hanging fruit, I could just do this for a little bit and it works, you got to really question it hard, especially with video. Like if you were to just take your video and put it on a podcast, that it's not even like you didn't really do any work.
Right.
But with video, it's like massive.
The other thing is that very often we spend a lot of time creating value, which is great, but not reaping the value that getting, not monetizing the value. And for example, I know a lot of people who write blogs, right? So my blog, for example, produces consulting business as well as course business, right? So suppose I did not have this consulting backend, it means that I would have left, a lot of money on the table, right? And similarly, if I did not have the course business, I would have left a lot of money on the table. Now, and I could produce YouTube videos, but that would be creating value, but not actually reaping the rewards. On the other hand, when you have something that fulfills, you have created value, but then what, right? I mean, people want people will come to you for consulting, people will come to you for courses, etc. And you do not have that. Suppose you did not have the course, then you could not grow the business, right? You're just focusing on reaching a lot of people, but not monetizing and building the business, right? And that is also crucial. That is crucial, that if you pick a single channel and you're able to monetize it in many different ways, then it's a great thing. Because when I write a blog, it helps my consulting business because it's free marketing in some sense. It also helps the course business, right? Because people want to learn as well. And so this way, I'm not changing channel. For me to create another channel like YouTube, it's a lot of work. That work can be spent in getting monetizing this business. Yes, so that I can pump money back into the thing. So one of the things with courses, for example, is that I don't have to make money from that business at all to have a good lifestyle. And that's why I have pumped money back into the course to make it high quality.
Gotcha.
Right. But that is because I initially focused, and I'm still focusing on a single channel, which is the blog.
Yep.
I think it makes sense to, like, you keep on digging in this gold mine until there's no more gold, right? Like there will be a point maybe someday where we're making new podcasts and continuing to expand in the podcast market where you already hit market saturation, where you're already there's diminishing returns on the effort, in which case then there will essentially be other gold mines that will be untapped for you, where you'll be able to gain from that. But at this point, you're not even close to market saturation in the podcast market. So your efforts there produce the highest results, because when you get new subscribers or new podcasts, essentially you're creating land that you can then sell or lease to make money. Like you already have the distribution channel for making money from that. Like you're literally, your business is literally to create media that you can then sell, and you already have the down chain for that, right? So I think that's the key, is like, even if you did, make YouTube channel, you don't have that, like it doesn't, you don't have something to monetize it, like Satya was saying. So
Yeah.
So guys, I'll need to take off.
Okay.
I have a hard stop at 10. So I'll see you guys next week.
In 1 minute.
Okay, Satya, take care. I gotta go to Money, Charles, and John. Take care.
Yeah, guys.
Calling you
Bye.
Chuck. Are you Chuck?
Yeah.
Okay. It says Charles there, but okay, Chuck. All right.
Yep.
Okay. All right, guys. Take care. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right,
Bye.
take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
We should probably wrap it up
Yeah.
anyway, because we should try to keep these at the
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah. Can I ask you one more thing though, John? Because it seems like and this is what I was trying to ask at the beginning, because you go lift weights, you go run, it's you're trying to run Bulldog Mindset and Simple Programmer and everything else. And I'm in the boat where, I'm trying to get my running in, and I've been successfully getting my running in, so I'm not trying, I am getting it in, but getting the running in, doing all the other stuff that I've got to do. I wind up having to jump in on some of the newer podcasts to keep them alive. And I'm just getting tired. I'm really tired.
The big thing I would say about it is that it's all relative, right? So, okay, so here's a good analogy, right? So, in fact, I wonder if I can screen share this. Let me do this. Let me screen share this real quick.
Yeah. I mean, I expect it'll get better, but
okay. Let me see. Can I screen share? And okay, here we go. Okay. So can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
All right. So if I go to, okay, so this little graph here, the pink is your level of fatigue, right? Of fatigue when you're running, right? The blue here that's going down and up here is your current fitness level, and the yellow represents your form, how you feel, right? So how you should feel, like, positive values are good, negative, here I'm like negative 31, because I ran those 22 miles or whatever, right? Now you can see that my fitness has been climbing up like this, and the way that the fitness climbs for running is that you fatigue, right? You don't fatigue too much, but you fatigue, pretty much as high as you can, and you keep on fatiguing yourself more. But the more that as you fatigue, your fitness grows, which means you can handle more fatigue.
Right.
You see? And so you keep on doing this, and that's how the runs are scheduled. So what ends up happening, and you got to keep your form in line. If your form goes down too much because you fatigue too much, you'll just you won't be able to continue.
Yeah,
so,
I'm just in general tired from having to chase everything.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
Right. So that's funny. He picked it up. But so what I'm saying is that I'm not even talking about this example for running.
Okay.
I'm talking about this example for life, right? The same thing is, it's basically it applies to running, but it also just applies to you in general. So if I'm trying to figure out how to stop this here. Okay. So it's the same thing. So if you work, let's say 8-hour days, right? And you're used to being a bum, those 8-hour days are going to feel like fucking hell, right?
Yeah.
And then if you work 8-hour days and you add an hour run on top of that, it's going to feel like fucking hell, right? Yeah. But eventually, like that same pattern happens, right? So like my day is insane, right? I wake up at 5:45 in the morning. I usually run somewhere between 5 to 10 miles, right? And then I'm hitting, 10 Pomodoro during the day, and then I'm hitting the gym at 3 o'clock and lifting for 2 hours on some days and 3 days a week, right? And all of these things that I'm doing, that, and I'm not eating, right? I'm fasting until 5. So all that seems like, if the average person were to just take on one of my days, they would just die. They'd be like, I can never do this again. They might not even make it through the whole day, right? I'm not trying to like toot my own horn. I'm just saying, right? But for me, that's just a normal day. But the only reason why it's just a normal day for me is because my quote fitness level is to that level where that becomes the norm. Right. So basically the answer to the question is you just keep on pushing through until it becomes the norm. And once it becomes the norm, then you're kind of sailing. But if you want things to be easier, sometimes you have to make them harder.
Right.
So that you keep your level, you know what I'm saying? But eventually you know, that becomes the norm for you, right? Like there's people in third world countries that are working 2 jobs that like they're literally laboring like 16 hours a day.
Right.
But that's just what they do. They're just used to it. Whereas if you just went and started and tried to do what they did, you'd just die. You'd be like, what the fuck? How could anyone possibly do this? But it becomes the norm. That's what, you know, humans are good at adapting to their circumstances. So that's the best advice I could give with that, like from the general perspective. The second thing I would say is again, I'm the hypocrite here, but choose very carefully what you do. Right. I'm sort of in deep in a lot of areas now. Right. So it's kind of hard, right? Like I don't really want to stop lifting weights. I don't really want to stop running. I don't really want to stop bulldog mindset. I don't really want to, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
if I could go back in time and just pick one thing to focus on or like have less of those things, it would make things a lot easier, because I would still maybe be putting in the same amount of effort. It would just be going in a singular direction. And it probably would be less exhausting, because what burns us out is not too much work. It's not enough forward momentum growth, right? If we're growing continually on something, we never get burned out. But you know, when you're kind of split in different directions, you're not always growing. So
yeah. All right, sounds good.
I just want to add to it by saying that physical energy is the highest form of energy in some ways. So like with fitness, you can literally have almost infinite energy to devote to other areas of life. Like when your fitness game is not on point, then every other area suffers.
True.
Like health is the biggest wealth, and when you can get your fitness game dialed in, and you feel like you can just get up and run, or you can just go and work out or do, like that level of energy just changes every dimension of life, like every fucking dimensions of life, because you get things done much faster. So if there was one meta level strategy, it would be fitness as the thing that would change everything.
Yeah, I think so. All right, guys, I guess we should just wrap it up here then, and see you guys next week.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.